a lot.
A lot,
as,
yeah.
As Darren's talking about investigative reporters, what's your take on investigative reporting? Because not only in your current situation, but since 1983, you've probably used investigative reporters to try to get pieces out for your benefit, right?
Well, I don't like to use the word used.
Well,
maybe
in a
exploited,
good
took
way,
advantage of.
Sure.
You know. Well, I'm teasing.
That's
All
true.
right. Yeah. I've seen it all. I've been doing this 30 years. In many ways, I have viewed myself as a journalist. I've been a professional advocate. And I think investigative reporters oftentimes view themselves as an advocate, seeking the truth and then sharing it with the public. Some advocates, I think, are very responsible about how they do their work, how they use the facts, how they gain the facts. I had an advantage over a lot of investigative reporters in that I had a budget and I had access to experts. So whenever I made a public assertion, it was backed up by somebody who knew what they were doing, who had credentials, and who had done analysis. Investigative reporters oftentimes don't have that, and many investigative reporters relied on my experts in order to do the stories they did, often about SDG&E or the phone companies or whoever else was in our attention at the time. So being an investigative reporter is tough in that you have to understand you don't have sometimes the resources that others have, and you have to figure out creatively how to find those resources and know enough to make sure that they're accurate. So the investigative reporter is a slightly different animal, and it's one that I admire and respect because I feel in many ways I have been an investigative reporter for the better part of 30 years. It's just unfortunate when you see one or a couple who have gotten into the mindset that Darren talked about. I've spent 4 months on the story. I'm going to write something and it's going to be front page. And if the facts are inconvenient, so be it. And every once in a while you see them. And I think certainly in my circumstance with Mr. McDonald, that has been the case in regards to the most recent year.
All right, now, you talked about earlier in your introductory statement that you have not formed a rival.
Correct.
That's been widely reported that you
Correct.
started. All right, so what's the story behind that?
The story behind that is I made an agreement with UCAN board that while UCAN was going through its reorganization, I was going to continue advocating on the great cases that we had started, as well as any other cases that came up. As soon as UCAN was able to stand on its feet again and get its house in order, they had it. In fact, there's been no case at the Public Utilities Commission in which I have intervened as an independent intervener, and in which UCAN has also been a party intervening. I do not compete with UCAN. I can't be a rival.
So what are you doing?
Having a wonderful time and coming to evenings like this to share with, and one of the reasons I came tonight, and this is really pretty important, is that most of the people in this room aspire to become journalists in some fashion. I don't know how it will be, but you all have interests in doing the investigation and arriving at the truth and sharing it with others. You bring, it's a wonderful job, and one that has, I think, brings with it a lot of responsibility. And I'm here really to share with you both the things that work and the things that don't work. I don't want to spend too much time on this one. You can, the most last year, but there are a lot of experiences that both Jan and Darren and I have had that we're hoping we can share with you tonight to help you be as good in the profession you've chosen as possible. And one big one that you've heard, one theme I've heard so far tonight, is the importance of truth.